Hello and welcome to the Women's Network. I'm Elke and I'm your host. Today we will have a terrific show. It's a very informative and interesting show with a very serious subject. So for those of you who may want to get out pen and pencil, please do so, because you might want to get involved and have more information about our show today. I have a great group of women with me today who will explain and tell you all about our subject, which is driving under the influence. As I said earlier, it's quite serious today, but we try to make it as light as possible. But as we all know, this is a subject that sort of it's anyone can get involved in it from every angle, from any angle you may want to look at. So let me introduce you to my guest. Let me start with someone who at this point can talk to us about the alcohol as far as having been a victim in an accident, and that is Michele Sapper. She's also now the law enforcement liaison for the organization MADD, which is Mothers Against Driving. Michele, thank you for being here, and
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, just briefly, because we want to get into it a little more later on.
Okay, great. May 1st of 1984, I was a junior in college. I had worked that day and was driving back to my school dorm. I was about a block and a half away. I was hit head-on by a 1-ton pickup truck. He had crossed the center line, bounced off another car, and then barreled into my car head-on, going 45 or 50. He was driving a 1-ton pickup truck. The driver who hit me was .28, a 4-time offender. I was in coma for 2 months. I really feel that I was kept here for a reason, and no matter what else I ever do in my life, I will always help in the fight against drinking drivers.
Ooh, that was a load. That was a load. Boy. Michele, we will get back to it a little later. Let me introduce my other guests. I have with me I'm so shaken up by what I just heard. Erin Meduso. She is the president of RADD, which stands for Rock Stars, Athletes, and Actors Against Drunk Driving. Oh my God. Maybe we should have introduced you last, but
yes.
Anyway, Erin, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. Michele, thank you. RADD is a nonprofit organization that was started in 1986 to combat drunk driving as a prevention means. It started when some DJs in the San Francisco area heard about a terrible crash with young people, and they said, wait a minute, we have celebrities coming through here all the time, and they're in the station and they're taping messages for us. When I'm in town, I listen to this radio station. Why don't we just have them say, and don't drink and drive? And one of them said, well, what are we going to do? Call it RADD, Rockers Against Drunk Driving. And that's how our project started. We have now grown and evolved into recording artists, actors, and athletes against drunk driving, but we started as rockers.
Terrific.
So, thank you for having me here.
I got back to where I should be. Okay, and my third guest is Dr. Monika Goodman Korn. She is a counselor on chemical substance abuse. Monika, so nice to have you here.
Nice to have me.
Tell me a little bit about your involvement.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm really very impressed by the way in what you said here, because I deal with people on the other side of that spectrum. That's what I do in my business, which is sometimes preventative. Sometimes I'm in the middle of the people that might be one of those impaired drivers. They may be in the middle of their chronic using, and sometimes somebody who just got clean and sober and is now dealing with having done something, just what you described. And it's difficult in all three categories. And my experience in that, oddly enough, I think it was in 1980 when Matt was born, so to speak. And that was the same time that I began to think I wanted to be part of the solution rather than the problem, and began.
I really hope that the guy who hit me saw someone like you and that he feels bad about what he did. Personally, I don't think he cared. He just had one word to say after his criminal trial as he walked by me in the hallway. And it was not hello, I'm sorry. He said a word that they'd bleep out of TV, put it that way. I really hope that he would have cared. But I'll tell you, most people think that MADD is just about mothers of people who have died. But there are a lot of us victims now in the days of all the medical technology who are living through what we're left with. And actually, somebody dies every 23 minutes. Someone is injured every 45 seconds.
Well, I have a little sheet here, and I'm not going to read it, but I highlighted some of the statistics, and when I look at it, it's alarming, to say the least. Drunk driving is the nation's most frequently committed violent crime. Yes. What do we do? I mean, as enormous as Michelle's initial statement was, but am I glad to have her here to give us an idea what can be done maybe at this point. You're here. You are so involved in, trying to find.
I sort of have my fingers in every pie.
Right.
I'm a speaker for Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I'm part of their victim impact panel, which speaks to first and second time offenders as part of their court sentence. I'm a Los Angeles Police Department specialist, reserve officer. I train police officers to get more enthused about going out and arresting drunk drivers. They see me and they see what they're preventing, and I sort of enthuse them a little bit more.
Erin, why don't you, I don't know that much about RADD, but tell us a little bit about your programs and what your end of it is.
Great. Well, we have 300 some celebrities, everyone from Paul McCartney and Phil Collins to Little Richard and country stars like Brooks and Dunn. I could go through the whole spectrum. Wonderful women stars like Melissa Etheridge and Trisha Yearwood, who give us their voices and their music, and actors who give us performances, all intending to change norms. What we would like to do is reach the person who hit you. It was too late. The people that you deal with are frequently chronic offenders. We are trying to get to young people and say, this behavior is totally not cool. And if their heroes and their icons say, this is really stupid, nobody who's cool would drink and drive, this is dumb, we're trying to change the perception. And we're trying to make it is changing. It is, MADD is changing it. Science and medicine is changing it. We're coming at it from another viewpoint, from people who would not accept the message from the Surgeon General, but they'll take it from Clint Black.
Yeah. I think what is so incredible that I often hear, and what I'm up against when somebody is still, when they still say, I'm enjoying my little drink, is that they're, first of all, the denial is so thick, you know, to puncture that denial, that they really are not functioning properly when they had even just as much as 2 glasses of wine. You know, and a woman of 120 pounds, what happens is she's right up there within
You're
zero.
impaired after your first sip of alcohol.
Absolutely. Besides that the impaired thinking, you know, happens because they're also in a different frame of mind. They're coming from parties, they're coming from places, but the social part about this having to do with, you know, it's a substance that is still accepted as having fun and looked at as such. So it's really difficult to say to somebody, it's not difficult for me to say it to them, it's difficult for them to want to hear that this, you are literally turning into a loaded gun when you do that.
Lethal weapon.
A lethal weapon.
And a 2,000-pound lethal weapon.
A 2,000-pound lethal weapon.
Well, MADD, besides working in the schools and speaking to adult groups and speaking to offenders, we also have victim services where we help victims deal with the tragedies of drunk driving collisions, help them through the court process, and incredible things are being done by MADD. And the problem is nowadays people are thinking, well, great, the problem's taken care of.
Yes.
Let's move
Yes, let's move
on
on.
to
Yes.
something else.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they're wrong. People are still dying. It's not taken care of.
No.
It's better, but it's not taken care of.
It's not, and there are specific groups. One of the groups that we address heavily is the 21 to 34-year-old age
Yes,
group,
yes.
of which some of us at this
Yeah.
table are members.
Slightly.
But I don't drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And we,
I
See?
gave up my license after the crash.
well, that's what we,
That's
interestingly
interesting.
enough, that is exactly what we advocate to this group in terms of a solution.
Yeah.
We don't make lifestyle judgments. A typical message is, hi, this is Phil Collins. Your lifestyle is your business, but if you take it on the road, it's everyone's business. Don't
Right.
drink and drive. A specific message aimed at a group, and we say, give up the keys. Get a designated driver, take a cab, take the bus.
MADD's real big with designated drivers. And you know, it's so hilarious. We had a construction guy at my house, and he says to me, "You'll be so proud of me. I was the designated driver
right.
last
Oh, no.
night.
That's
I just
great.
had 3 beers." I said to him, "Sir, designated driver means you abstain from alcohol. You don't
There you
drink.
go.
Not whoever drank the least."
Yeah, and you hear, that's where you hear the denial. I mean, somebody literally
Right,
thinking
exactly. It's-
at 3 beers he's still okay.
Yeah.
You know, what's wonderful though is sometimes when I get to work with somebody and they really got it, they get sober, they get a year, you know, and they're re-entering the social life in a different way and function, and they'll come in and say, guess what I did? I was the designated driver of the whole party, and he used to be the one, you know,
Yes.
that was really, you know,
That's great.
yeah, and that is that's when I say, God,
That
you know,
must
it's
make
so
you
nice.
feel
It
so
does.
successful.
Yes, it does.
You saved lives. You've
Yeah.
taken that person off the road.
I've taken that one person off the road, and that person, in conjunction with what other help he gets, tries to take another one, and then another one, and another one, and it really begins to be like a nice circle, a domino effect.
And that's so important, because frequently people will say to us, well, I don't drink, or I only hang out with a church group and we don't drink. What do we care? And I say, well, do you cross the streets? Do you drive? Do your children go to school in a school bus?
I wasn't drunk. I was driving home.
To school, or home towards your dorm. Exactly. So it's everyone's problem.
Yeah, exactly. I just want to intercept something for our audience. If you want to know more about it, please don't go away. Wait for the credits at the end of the show. We have the numbers of MAD, and we have the number for RADD, and you have my number. You can get in touch with Monika that way. So it's such a serious subject. So please stay with us and listen. And maybe you can become part of it to restore sanity, or whatever you want to call it. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that in, because I want to ask the two organizations here, what do you have to, what are the prerequisites to join the organization? I hope it's not tragic to,
No, we differ from MAD in the sense that we are not a membership organization. We have celebrity spokespeople, but we don't have members. Our celebrity spokespeople give us public service announcements for radio and television. We tape commercials with them and release them to broadcasters so that they're shown on local channels and on local television in the community where the work gets done.
Yeah.
And that's how we communicate.
That's terrific.
That's good.
I think that's so powerful, because these people who are out front there all the time on TV, I think especially the young people, they want to have, they're looking for heroes, you know?
Like
and
you
they're
said earlier, the icons.
Exactly.
I actually have 2 posters with me, and they are women. Melissa Etheridge.
Good for her.
As you can see, they are very non-judgmental messages. That's Melissa, and that's Trisha Yearwood. Both of them have given us television and radio spots, and we're kind enough to appear in posters, and we put these up on college campuses, which is a group that needs to hear the message.
That's for sure.
Especially.
I've spoken at many universities, and
what was the reaction? What was the reaction?
Well, first of all, if it's not mandatory to be there, nobody will be there. Because if you had the choice of going and listening to somebody telling you not to drink and drive, or going out and partying, what would you do? So when I've done speeches and it hasn't been mandatory, nobody's been there. So I basically have said I won't do it unless it's a requirement to be there, or there's no point.
They're hard to reach, that group.
High schools are great because they're sort of trapped.
Yes.
And because there's just one of me and so many of them, I just do auditoriums and I speak to large groups, and I have never felt as powerful as one of the first speeches I gave with MAD when I spoke at Santa Monica High School to the whole school, 9th through 12th. They have an outdoor amphitheater similar to the Greek theater but smaller. They had what I call an after the crash, which is where paramedics, fire department, police department, the coroner carry out what happens after the drunk driver hits someone.
That has to be compelling.
And then after that, I spoke. That was a real knock 'em dead.
I really.
Wait, just one more thing, Elka. It was during lunch, and we kept these kids silent for 45 minutes. That's when you know you have power.
Success.
A tough house.
That's
Seriously.
Well, you brought up the crash and thereafter the coroner and so on. I think just to see the seriousness of drunk driving, why don't we just face the situation and look at some of the pictures we have right here, and maybe Michele wants to, I know it's not a pretty picture.
This picture is of me before the crash.
Maybe the camera can focus on the picture.
I was 20 when the crash occurred. This photograph is a police photograph of my car after the accident. It was taken on the front lawn of the people's home where it ended up. And
1 second, he's still showing that.
And this photograph, I joke around that it's my glamour shot, probably because I'm embarrassed. It's a picture of me the first week in coma. I was on total life support. This in my mouth is a respirator. That's before a tracheotomy was inserted. After a week, you'll love this one, so that it wouldn't ruin my vocal cords.
Well, I'm glad you have a sense of humor.
Absolutely.
They had tubes
marvelous.
everywhere. The tube in my nose is called a nasal gastric, and that's how they were able to feed me. The tube went all the way down my throat into my stomach. So, and I had other tubes.
Well, I tell
Sure.
you, I can't believe seeing you here. And I think that is
You know,
incredible.
I'll
It's a
tell you,
miracle.
Alka, I've told my story so many times. I really feel like I'm talking about somebody else.
Well, for us, you're here.
It's
and
immediate.
It's
Impactful.
immediate.
Yes.
And since we're all involved, Erin from her angle, Monika from her angle, and you're doing such a great job. I mean, it's just unbelievable, and I think it's great that we did look at these pictures, and that the audience does get to see not just Michele sitting here in the perfect picture,
Yes.
but what the picture
Thank
was
you.
like several years ago, and then for her to go out, and instead of being bitter and angry,
And in a board and care, which is
Right.
where most people who are in coma for 2
Right.
months.
and for
end
you
up.
to now
It's true.
be involved with government agencies, private agencies, and you put yourself out. And you told me that you went back to college, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I graduated UCLA 5 years ago. My senior year took 5.5 years, I won't lie. I was at Santa Monica College for a year, at Cal State Northridge for a year and a half, and at UCLA for 3 years, but darn it, I
You did it.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wouldn't give up. Incredible, will to succeed. And if nothing else, prove my neurologist wrong. My initial neurologist had told me I'd never be able to finish college to get my BA, that I wouldn't leave the hospital without a walker or a wheelchair. He was not a nice man.
But
Well,
Do you
the-
know,
the human
I-
spirit.
Well, maybe
will
that
do.
was.
yes, maybe he was.
It worked in reverse.
In reverse,
Yeah,
exactly.
but most people didn't have the strength to do what I.
Overcome
Yes.
that. No.
Yeah.
You had a lot of
I
courage.
sent him a graduation announcement.
Did you?
I never heard
Had to feel good.
anything, but it felt great.
You mean he
just
didn't
to
call?
No.
And
It felt-
congratulated you?
It felt great to send it. I didn't care.
Yeah.
God. So,
But, you know, I say that, and I should tell the people out there that I've been out of UCLA since September of 1992, and I haven't even gotten a job interview. So, unfortunately, I send my resume out. People read my resume, are impressed, call me for a job interview, hear my voice, and all of a sudden the jobs are filled. So
That happens nowadays.
society has a lot of head trips they need to deal with.
I'm
That's-
glad you brought that up because
Yes.
I think we need to hear that, and the audience needs to hear that.
Yes.
Because it's that it's so easy for us to judge in the wrong direction, and you know, just what you said.
Yeah. We also live in a society where everything is like an outside. Everything has to look perfect on the outside, and
And I do until I open my mouth.
well, it's not that physical part. It's that they have a certain idea and picture of what a person should
Right.
be, and should be like, and sound like, and so forth.
It's so
Monika,
Yeah, it
Erin, and Michele, I have to tell you, we are at the end of the show.
Already.
Oh, my.
I meant to ask you, all three of you, to you know, say a few parting words, but I don't know how much time we have. If you have like 5 seconds on something, or
I have
know.
2 words that I want to say, and that is prevention, 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 and that starts with children, educating children on what can happen when they get into it.
great,
Great.
Do you have
And
any?
I want to say this holiday season, designate
Oh,
before you
God,
celebrate,
good.
if you choose to
Right.
celebrate with alcohol.
Terrific. Michele.
And all I have to say is, if you drink, don't drive.
Well,
Here.
they are all very profound statements, and I hope we listen to
Yeah.
our own voices and statements, and hope that life goes on. I want to thank all of you for coming. It's been terrific. It's been, I think you said it all, and maybe we can do it again, because I think it needs to be brought up again and again.
Thank you.
Michele, thank you for
Yeah.
being here. It was your show. It was terrific. So, thank
Yes.
you, and to my audience, thank you for listening, and I hope you will look at the numbers at the end of our credits and maybe get involved or call us. But in the meantime, we want to say goodbye and hope you will be with us again next time. Bye-bye.